Hi, I'm Andy Adams, editor of Canadian Yachting magazine, and with me today is a very interesting gentleman who has done something that, to my way of thinking, has the potential for really changing the way people think about outboard motors. This is Captain Bernardo Hertzer, and he is the founder, CEO of Lehr Incorporated. Bernardo, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. This is an honor to be in Canadian Yachting, and being at the show, it's really been a great, exciting weekend.
Now, as I understand it, you've actually developed the technology behind the world's first propane-powered outboard engine. How did you come to the idea of doing this?
Well, I've personally been converting small engines to run on propane since I was a youth. On the first liveaboard yacht at the age of 14. We converted some small hookah equipment that was originally Navy equipment, and we couldn't get the carburetors fixed. We couldn't get parts. So I actually converted them to run on propane. Propane in outboard motors, or propane in general, is not a new idea, and I didn't invent that. But what I have done is I've brought it down now to the consumer level and have developed the technology so it can't be used and manufactured in an OEM application. Original equipment manufacturers. These are the world's first OEM outboard motors.
I think that's amazing. So let's recap quickly the benefits to having a propane-powered outboard as compared to a gasoline-powered outboard. What are those?
Well, propane, as you know, is a fuel that will store indefinitely. It's the same fuel that you use on your barbecues. It's the same fuel that your buses in your neighborhood are running on. It's the same fuel that you use, commercially in taxis and cars and buses. Forklifts use it to run indoors. You also cook and barbecue on it, right? And you use it for lighting and for heating, right? It's the same propane. And that propane has no issues with gumming of carburetors, no issues with choke, priming, ethanol, and in Canada, propane is about half the cost of gasoline. So that's a big reason why all of your commercial users are using it today, your buses and your infrastructure. Now, in America, you have the same thing. As of a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, in fact, the United States became a net exporter of propane. Last year they exported 25% of the U.S. production was exported. This year it looks like it'll exceed 30%. So we have very large amounts of reserves of propane in America and in Canada. It reduces our dependency on foreign oils, right? And at the same time, it's a green gas. That means that it has no ozone depleting potential, right? And it says zero evaporative emissions. It's not a marine pollutant, class 1 or class 2. It can't get in the water. There's no mercury going into the water when you're running these engines. There's no spilling. So you really have a tremendous advantage over the gasoline applications, and yet the consumer pays less and gets a more reliable product.
You said something very interesting a while ago. I don't know how many of our listeners are going to be thinking in these terms, but you mentioned that forklifts, which are used in warehouses where people are living and working all day, are running on propane. Is it that clean air a situation? Well,
you're still burning a hydrocarbon. But yeah, it is used indoors, and a lot of the reasons is it doesn't have all of the carcinogens and all of the really bad things that gasoline has in it. So it's a huge improvement over gasoline.
So how does it work compared to having an ordinary outboard engine with a fuel tank full of gasoline and all the rest?
They're easier to use. There's no winterizing, there's no choke, there's no priming, right? You screw in a propane tank and you're good to go. And because it is a gaseous fuel, the engines generally have no issues with, foul plugs, or you drown the engine, now you can't get it started because it's flooded, right? Propane is actually a gas that is boiling at room temperature.
Wow, and you know what? I think that probably consumers are becoming increasingly accepting of this. Are you finding that there's a lot of interest?
I find that there's a lot of interest here in Canada. And also I've been made aware of just how knowledgeable the consumer is about propane here in Canada.
Well, I think that's fantastic. Well, I must say we wish you all the best with Lehr Incorporated and your new line of outboard motors. Thank you so much, Bernardo. It's been great.
Well, thank you, and thanks to Yachting. We really appreciate it, and thanks for all your great support.